Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 13th, 2017 Wright County Board meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance right after I put my phone on silent.
Do that before, Charlie. I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Delighten didn't remind me of that.
Hey, Charlie, put your phone on silent.
Okay, we have the minutes from June 6th. Anyone has a chance to read them?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any discussion? Lee, did you have anything? Susan, everything looks good? Okay. All right, all in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimous. Review and approve the agenda for today. Any additions? Hopefully not, okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delighten. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved, the agenda is approved. The consent agenda for today.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to pull item 1, item A1,
Okay.
just for some discussion.
Want to make a motion to approve the regular?
And I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Delighten to approve the consent agenda with the deletion of item A for further discussion. Second by Commissioner Hewsome. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioner Delighten.
Yeah, do you know anything about this at all?
A little bit, yes. This was an item that HR Director was working on with the Parks Department that came out of Negotiations Committee regarding the minimum qualifications and duties of the parks worker and trying to update those job descriptions to encompass everything that they're doing now. So it would kind of tie in the natural resources piece and some of the herbicides and application.
Just for all of the workers, or just?
Correct.
Okay. Because we don't have a meeting tomorrow. We didn't have any other scheduled.
Correct.
So I was just wondering if that was a problem.
Well, this would be out into the July meeting.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now.
So we need a little extra
Oh,
time
okay,
to
because
get
it did say it says 7/12 on here, which was why I was concerned.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is going to be it'll be sent out to 7/20 then.
Correct, yep.
All right, that's all I wanted to make sure, because it stated they wanted to do it for tomorrow, and
Yeah.
we didn't have a personnel committee tomorrow.
Mr.
Actually, it
Chair.
would have been
No, it's dated for
July.
Hmm?
yesterday. Or
7/17 is July.
July 12th.
7/12 would be July 12th.
Is that when they are requesting this?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Today's 13th.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I'm confused. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that.
Item A, okay. Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Potter. Further discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That is approved. Now we're on to our timed agendas. 9:02, Wright County Auditor Treasurer, Award-winning Auditor Treasurer, Mr. Robert Hevela.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The board, the first item on the agenda is to approve a new tobacco license. This is for the Mills Fleet Farm in Monticello. We have the proper application, the signatures, and the proper fees. The board, I'm asking you to approve the new tobacco license for Fleet Wholesale Supply doing business as Mills Fleet Farm in Monticello.
I'll make a motion to approve the new tobacco license for the Fleet Wholesale Supply Company in Monticello.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, second by Commissioner Vetch. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Next up,
Board, the second item is, this is a annual thing Jackie had on her calendar to remind us that we have an appointment on the Clearwater River Watershed Board of Managers. One of our appointees, Kathy Johnsrud, her term ends here in August. So typically in July, we would post an advertisement in the 2 newspapers.
okay.
So I'm asking permission to do the same thing.
Commissioner Houston, yeah.
Mr. Chair, Bob, is it a legal requirement to post it? Because I spoke with Kathy, and she would like to continue on, but I said we need to check about the legal requirements
You don't have
if she needs to, she said if you need another letter from me and a reply, I mean, she is doing a wonderful job. She's very diligent and works hard for the district, and
I will
Jerry,
speak to
would
the
you
same
agree
as
with
well.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kathy's a very,
top
very,
notch. I mean, we're really fortunate to have her, and so, I mean, why go through the expense of advertising if it's not a legal requirement?
Absolutely, Board. So if you will give Brian a chance to research that,
Yep.
if we don't have to, we will not.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then I'll bring back an action to reappoint her for another 3-year term.
That'd be great.
But if we do, then we'll proceed on. Is that fair for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve,
Isn't it?
just getting it checked out to see what the requirements are, legal requirements are. And then if
Brian,
it's
is that okay?
required that if we have to proceed with the posting requirements.
I mean, if she wants to do it and that'd be your appointee, I'd hate to
I'm wondering-
advertise for it. and-
I'm wondering if
Right.
we even need a motion.
Well, this way, if they have to post it, they can.
Okay,
Otherwise, you'd have to come back, so.
Right, I don't want to have to come back and ask if I can post it,
Okay.
so.
Yeah. So
That's
if
the motion.
the law is required, then do it.
okay. And second by Commissioner Vetch? Okay. Commissioner Houston, did you have something else?
No.
Okay.
Darren.
So a motion by Commissioner Lyden, second by Commissioner Vetch to post this only if it's required by law, otherwise it will come back and Commissioner Houston can recommend a reappointment of their manager Johnson. Okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Next up, Bob.
Board, the third item on the agenda is to approve the May revenue expenditure guidelines. In May, even though we haven't brought it before you, we did allocate out the wages and benefits based on negotiations. Lee's going to present to you a budget amendment to reflect that. The guidelines do show the allocation already. There's 2 more unions that have to settle that will further allocate some more.
2 more unions have to settle?
We have agreement on the deputies union, you just haven't had the final contract signed as of yet.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, Board, if you look at Department 100, that's where we held the unallocated personnel costs. You'll see that line has dropped considerably. That's because we've allocated it to the appropriate departments. The other items I would draw your attention to is why I keep drawing your attention to some of our fees are doing better than we anticipated. Our boarding of prisoners, our sheriff contracts, they're doing well, and that's because our DARE programs are getting paid here earlier in the year than normally in the fall. There's really nothing else for me to draw your attention to.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the May revenue expenditure budget report.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And Mr. Greg Kreiser, Assistant County Attorney, on review of the waiver of the buffer enforcement.
Well,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, first I just want to correct the typo in my heading. It's actually review, acceptance, or waiver of buffer enforcement. After the last special session, the legislature did allocate some funding for buffer enforcement. However, Bowser is requiring that we make the election to them by June 28th, so we have about 2 weeks in order to decide. So I decided, in the interest of time, to just place 2 resolutions before the board and queue it up for you guys to decide what you would like to do with this. I attached the minutes from the prior meeting where we tabled this discussion back in January. And the estimated funding for next year, this came from AMC, was for Wright County,
76.
$76,891, and then in the 2018 state fiscal year, it goes up to $96,114.
And Board, I can just tell you, in talks with some of the other counties around, there's the feeling that the state, right now, we have kind of surplus they're going to fund it, and then as soon as a lean year comes along, you're going to be hanging again. So there's a lot of, my input is let the state take care of it. It's their law, let them take care of it, and we'll do our best to maintain our buffers out here, and we already are doing that. So.
I think it'd be interesting just to, if we were gonna entertain it, and we're having that discussion later today about a ditch coordinator, if there's ways that, if we would get into possible, maybe tying in some
And
of those duties.
we can always bring it on later too if it came to that, so.
You know, I don't know,
Funding though, right? Mr. Chair, Greg, we lose the funding though if we don't?
If you don't make the election by June 28th, you lose the funding for the 2017 state fiscal year.
And what are our, specifically, what would we have to have someone appointed to go out and check these buffers, or
After we make
who's
the,
overseeing us doing this?
that is yet to be figured out. We have to, I mean, right now it's, do you want the money or not, and do you want to accept it? After that, after we make that determination, if you want to go forward with it, then we have a process that we have to adopt procedures, rules, and regulations, and possibly appoint someone or hire someone to do this job.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
I have concerns of letting the state handle it. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read, but Kerry Saxon wrote a letter. It was in
Yeah.
Drummer, I think.
no,
The Journal Post.
but anyway, it was in
Paper.
the good paper. Yeah. Anyway, you know, it talked about the options for those farmers where they can get some relief for all these buffers. And I'm just concerned if we let the state deal with it, by the time they get around to it, because there's some requirements on when that has to be done. I'm concerned that if we let the state handle it, that some of those farmers and some of those people that are going to have those buffers are not going to get those options.
Two different things, Mark. We are already doing that. We're working with the farmers already, doing the buffer strips. That's a different grant. That's already out there.
I know, but this is going to work hand in hand with that. Because, I mean, since these people have to have that buffer, having somebody that's dealing with them directly, I mean, why have the state coming in there and mucking everything up?
They wouldn't have to come in at all,
Well,
you know?
but the problem is, do we know that's going to happen?
I think there's some definitely more discussion on this, just because through the watershed districts and soil and water, there is a lot of credits out there that people can get for putting them in there, but I don't think that the general public knows that those credits are available to them to do this. And that's, I think, what you're getting at, Mark, is getting that information out there. And maybe if we choose to go the route of administering it, that person can be kind of the...
But we are already doing that. The administration is still out there. I mean, Soil and Water is doing that. That was a huge grant. You know, so this is strictly the enforcement part. This is if there was a violation, then...
But, well, it's not just enforcement, it's working with the farmers.
No, that is already out there, Mark.
Yeah, but this is, you're not going to go out and just tell people you're not legal. You want to work with them. So why do we want to have the states telling them, you know, like I said, I'm just concerned about the state mucking it up.
The state went in, this is enforcement. We have the people here that are being told, okay, here's the thing, they're checking to make sure that the people are all in compliance already. If they're not, they would turn it over to the enforcement people. That's where it would go. Then it would go to the state, and then the state can take care of it, and they can pay all the legal expense and the lawyers and everything else, whatever, if it was fought or whatever, so.
So Charlie, my question is do you want, okay, let's go back to the blue blob map. So do you want the state defining that blue blob map? And what is public waters, what's not public waters, and what needs buffers, and what that buffers needs to be? Or do you want it to be more defined with somebody closer to home? I mean, that's just the question.
They already do it, Derek. They already do it. We have no choice on that. We don't get to say, you'd have a buffer here, you don't have one there. That's already in the law. That's already defined. We don't have that discretion. And I can tell you what, if it was if we kept this in the county somewhere, I'd feel a little more comfortable about it. But I said, if it goes to Soil and Water, the way they've been enforcing wetland, I couldn't deal with it. You know, that's, so and for right now, I said I'd rather just pass on it.
I mean, I'm not sold either way. That's why, I mean, I don't want to be first in either, Charlie. That's what I think with this.
I
I
say
don't-
just let the state take care of it. We can revisit this next year. I mean, we're missing out on the funding for this year. It's going to come with more expense than that. You're still going to lose money on it anyway. I just said, let the state carry the water on this. And hopefully, we don't have any violations out there because we have the people out there working with them right now. And that part of Soil and Water is doing a good job.
So wasn't Charlie just, I'm not the exact number, but aren't we're like 85% compliant? Wasn't that what the number that they were saying anyways?
Yeah, we've got high
Something like, it
compliance.
was something like that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Since there seems to be a lot of confusion, not only the AMC level, but Commissioner Glyden and everything else about what this really means and the impact is, because sometimes, beware of the free dollar costs a lot of money. It seems like it's adding more confusion, so to gather more information, and I would make a motion to pass on this for 2017, and then we can revisit it again and get more information from Soil and Water and what's going on, what are we really going to get for this, and what are we doing with it. That'd be my motion to not go forward with this for 2017.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, so your motion would be to adopt the resolution waiving Wright County's jurisdiction to carry out compliance provisions of Minnesota Statute Section 103B.101, Subdivision 12A, and 103F.48
For 2017.
for the time being. We can change it at some other point.
We have that option.
Yeah,
Yes.
but as of right now, that'd be the resolution you're moving to adopt.
Yes.
I'll second that with a couple of questions.
Sure.
So is this for the biennium for 2 years? So this is something that if we pass on 2017, we can adopt in 2018?
If we pass on the deadline right now, we lose out on the first year's fiscal funding
Just the first year?
at this point in time. We would have to go through the Bowser procedures to get onto the next fiscal.
We don't have to do any
Allocation.
of the work that it's involved either, so.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, I'm a big supporter of local control in most things, but this is, there's a lot of confusion in the law and the, jurisdiction, and so
I'm with you.
yeah.
Okay, further discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Resolution.
A resolution, okay. Then Commissioner Delyden, you start out.
No?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And next up, we have our County Coordinator, Lee Kelly, about the Central Minnesota Mental Health Governance Structure.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I wanted to bring this back to the board for kind of wrapping up some closure, as I know they were expecting some commentary or decision from the board. County sometime in June here. This was discussed at a May Health and Human Services Board. And I think I included those minutes in your packet. Today's material. Just kind of wanted to wrap up this discussion, as I believe my takeaway from the Health and Human Services Board was that the county was okay with the mental health center changing their governance structure and allowing them to proceed forward, so.
Okay. And Commissioner Hewson, you're
Yeah.
involved in this. What's your input on
I am,
this?
yes, Mr. Chair, when this first came up, we had a discussion. I was moved to the governance committee after Commissioner Sawatsky retired, and at first I had a little pushback, just, like, I don't know if I am in favor of this or not, and then the more research I did and the more we realized that we, do pay a lot of extra money. I mean, we don't pay that much monthly like we used to. And it does give us options. There's more options out there now. The board going to a nonprofit does give them more opportunities for fundraising and getting money from other sources. So I am comfortable with that. I wanted input from the board. I don't know if we need a motion per se, but because the Central Minnesota Mental Health Board will be voting on this, and then after that,
Then it will come back.
then all the boards have to approve it, but the concerns, the comments that I've gotten from our attorney, our coordinator, our Health and Human Services Director, they're, I believe, comfortable, they can speak for themselves, but with them moving forward on this, so if anyone wants to have any.
I guess I have a question, maybe you can help me, or Brian. But when we started, and I wasn't around, obviously, when they started Central Minnesota Mental
In
Health.
the 1960s, we were here, we just weren't here.
I was about, yeah. But was there startup money that the counties put in at that time, Brian? Is that something that I guess my concern is if we put in startup money, should that come back, especially if the new governance thing were ever to fold up? Where would that money, if there were any assets remaining, where would they go to, that kind of thing?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I think the easy answer, or the short answer to that question is that ship has already sailed. I don't know the amounts that were invested, but in reading through the history, the other three counties, Benton, Stearns, and Sherburne, formed Central Minnesota at some point, and then a few years later, Wright County
Joined, yeah.
basically invested their way in.
Yeah.
I think there was a payment made, and then an agreement to,
Cost per
as far as
capita.
funding ongoing. Subsequent to that, when they formed themselves as a nonprofit, and all of the counties agreed to that, the Articles of Incorporation as a nonprofit call for, basically, if it were to be disbanded, the assets would go into a foundation to fund similar types of treatment and things in the community. And so there's really no mechanism for anything to come back to the counties at this
Right,
point.
as a nonprofit.
Would there be, while we're disbanding Central Minnesota Mental Health as the governance structure is now, is there a way that could be written into that agreement, though, that if they were to disband, that it would come back to the four counties for investment? Because we may want to start, because you had mentioned that before, that anytime we could start a new mental health thing with the counties, there's nothing saying we couldn't do that
Right.
if this new organization was not serving the needs of our people, so our constituents.
Mr. Chair, Brian, well, this isn't going to be a new organization, just simply the board structure is going to be different. So it's still going to be Central Minnesota Mental Health, but we just won't have the same commissioner kind of control. And they, as Brian just said, the money would go back to probably another nonprofit, or if there was monies left over. I mean, if, say, we gave $10,000 50 years ago, well, that's, you're right, that ship has sailed.
Well, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, the statutes that govern nonprofit corporations do not allow members, if you will, to profit or to receive distributions. So I doubt that it could really be written that way, that the counties would.
It's not a huge.
I think it's more akin to what Commissioner Newsom was talking about, that it's simply a restructuring of how the board acts. What the board is comprised of,
Right.
what types of individuals, and how they make their decisions.
And Mr. Chair, we were operating essentially as a joint powers board, and you can't be a joint powers structure and a nonprofit structure at the same time. So that's where the legalities came in, and this really is, it's a legal issue.
Yeah.
So.
I have no problem with that. I was just
Yeah,
saying, I
I-
was just thinking if they ever did stop services and stop, because they're going to have some assets, they could give them to whoever they wanted.
Yep.
But I'm saying if they were directed to say, give them to the counties, and then the counties would give them to whoever they wanted, because really we're kind of making we're giving up ownership basically right
And,
now.
Mr. Chair, I think, well, Jamie can weigh in too, but we have an obligation under the statute to make sure that there are services, these types of services
Yep.
being provided to the community. If Central Minnesota were to disband, we wouldn't necessarily have to start up something as counties. We would just have to make sure that there's other entities out there that are providing those services, so.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly.
It's just, I'm looking at the bad side of things, and because the governance people that were under the new thing could say, yeah, we're giving it all to a nonprofit in Colorado. You know, I mean, whatever, and then it wouldn't serve us at all, so, but it's whatever. It is what it is.
Charlie, I mean, you got valid points there, and I was one of the more skeptical ones when they came into this whole discussion, and Christina will attest to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I asked a lot of questions to it because I wasn't quite sure of the vision. I was definitely not sure of the financial stability of them without the
Exactly.
counties. I sat down with Dr. Lee on a couple of occasions. He laid out a lot of the funding and what we, as the four counties, put into it, and we actually, as a four counties combined, actually make up a small percentage of their total revenue. And that's what made me feel comfortable with us being able to walk away, because it doesn't make sense when we make up, I think the number was less than 20% of the general revenue for the entire organization as four counties.
I think it was much less. It's a couple percentage.
Yeah, it could even be like 8%. It was a really small number for us four counties, but yet the four counties control the entire board. That doesn't make sense for us. They should be able to operate and be able to tailor their services to a general public at large, which makes up their revenue sources, not us as a government.
You know, and get people on there who are very committed, and I mean, I'm committed to mental health, but my role is a county commissioner, but they have people in the community that have, you know, a lot of life experience or personal experiences that drive them to want to serve on, you know, this capacity, and they're very passionate, and they have financial abilities maybe to do some fundraising and that kind of thing. So I think it's great if you can get private dollars to run some of these organizations, not just always public dollars. So, you know, tax people to provide some of these services, that if you can get them from some private entities.
Okay.
So
Well,
Lee, do you
that's-
want us to
my
have
comments,
do you want us to make a recommendation going forward on this?
That might be a good idea. They weren't real specific in the method they wanted coming back. They just
I think we
wanted
can do that.
comments
Why
coming back.
don't we have somebody make a motion that we are supportive of the new
I'll make a
governance
recommendation
structure?
for the supporting the new government structure for Central Minnesota Mental Health.
Okay,
second that.
motion by Commissioner Vetz, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous, so they'll give them a little direction, I guess. so.
Right, that gives Derek and I direction of how to vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And 9:20, a little after, we got Lee Kelly, the local option sales tax.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. This item was brought to the board in the early part of May as an agenda item for discussion. At that time, we were interested in how the legislature was going to play out, and of course, as you know, that has since concluded with a bill being passed, but I think you heard at the AMC meeting yesterday, it was kind of an underwhelming result compared to what we thought may have happened. So bringing this back, as it was laid over, the local option sales tax, as you recall, we did have a night meeting to get public input, I believe it was on May 4th. So just bring this item forward again for consideration by the board.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the local option sales tax in the amount of 1/2%.
I'll second that.
And this will be, you're making a motion for the resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. And go ahead, we'll have discussion. Commissioner Delyden.
I don't like the idea of doing it for 15 years. I would like to do it for just for 5 to start out with.
The 15.
And that way we can have some metrics to make sure that we're not going to cause any issues with our local businesses and stuff.
15 years.
with some of the metrics that the state provides, the Department of Revenue,
Run out of projects.
we can look at sales, tax amounts.
Okay.
Right now, Wright County, it's kind of strange, we're the 10th largest county in the state, and actually we're the 10th largest county in sales tax revenue, which normally that doesn't quite jive, so I found that kind of interesting. But I'd like to be able to look at it in 5 years and make sure that we haven't done anything detrimental to our local businesses. And that's why I prefer to do a 5-year.
So, do you want to make an amendment then, Mark? Why don't you make a motion for an amendment to amend 1, 2, 3, 4, it would be the 6th paragraph down, right, Lee? We'd amend that, it says 15 to 20 years?
Mr. Chair, it's actually, I don't know, it's not specific, it just says it
In the next,
throughout the county that could be implemented in the next 15
And
to
it
20
could
years.
be implemented
But
for
it's
5
not-
years, right?
so we have to have a
There's actually,
sunset.
my understanding was there was not a time frame on this, but I'm in agreement with Commissioner Delight in that we should set a time and that we could review it
It
after.
should be regularly
And
revisited.
there's, for the person that says it will never go away, I'm not even going to argue on, but at least it makes a future board make a positive vote in favor of this. I mean, an affirmative vote, that they will have to take action on it. It's not going to be an automatic for 20 years. Yes, Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A local option sales tax can be repealed at any time by the county board if they so choose to do so.
Yep.
The time frame we have here is merely the amount of projects we have on the books right now and how much time it would take to collect this money over that time to complete those projects. If in some miracle of politicians, the state or the feds actually step up and do what they're supposed to do, this can go away. But if, as you've seen at the AMC meetings, more and more counties are adopting this. I imagine by the end of the year, it'll be north of 40 counties will be doing this because they all have the same bad taste in their mouth about how the legislature dealt with this. It's a good step forward, but it really wasn't adequate to address the needs, and the needs kept growing. In the 4 years I've been on this board, it grew from the unfunded needs went from $12 billion up to $18 billion. And the longer you just kick the can down the road, the more we turn into Pennsylvania, which actually has to turn into a 31-cent per gallon gas tax increase just to make ends meet. And that was done with a Republican governor, Republican legislature. And when I talked to Congressman Bill Schuster, the chair of the House Transportation Committee, says they kicked the can down the road so far, they didn't have anything other choice but that. And I want to avoid that type of option.
And I agree.
Yeah.
And I sat in hearings with my cohort, Linda Robegent from Carver County, and we were told straight to our face right there from Representative Runbeck, amongst others, why don't you use the tools we gave you? You come down here asking for money, you want us to fix your problems. And I think she sent a real clear message what they want the counties to do, and quite a few counties have responded to that. And that's why the time frame is, it's just basic on the projects we have there. We still not completed the Northeast Wright County study. And by the time that gets done, I'd imagine that the amount of projects out there on the shelf will go from 78 million to north of 100 million, which is similar to some of our peer counties that we do. They're all in that same, 80 to 100 billion dollars in unfunded projects that are sitting there. We do have growth coming here. That's a fact. It's not going to turn around. We do have congestion issues already we need to deal with. I mean, these are just things that are just too important to kick it down the road, or it's time to talk is over, it's time for action is now.
Well, and I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just, instead of putting it out there for 15 years, I would just like to go a 5-year. Again, that way, we're not tying up any of the local, or any of the future board members. We're going to be able to start accomplishing some. People may accept it then easier, and again, we'll have metrics that we can do it, instead of having to try and then recall it in 15 or in 6 years or 7 years or 3 years. I'd just rather go 5 years and
let's see what happens.
Commissioner.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, so Commissioner Potter, you're looking at October 1st of 2017 as the action date?
Correct.
And I'm looking at a sunset date of December 31st of 2022, based on Commissioner Dahleiden's
5 years.
5 year, yep. So basically, it'd be
So
5
really,
years,
we're just
5 years
filling
and
in
1
the
quarter.
blanks at the bottom.
5 years and 1
Doing.
quarter. So basically, 5 years, 3 months.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead. Virgil, come on up.
Morning, Chairman Burrell and Board of Commissioners. I would like to point out that if it's decided to put a term limit on this, I would recommend that we keep all the projects listed in the resolution on there, and we
Oh,
just
I
be able to
agree.
accomplish
Yeah.
as many as we can within those 5 years. And with that being said, there was one project that didn't make the resolution that was presented at the public hearing, so I'd like to have that added to the resolution, and that's CASA 19 I-94 Turn Lane Bridge Project. And that was presented at the public hearing, and it didn't make the list, so I'd just like to point that out.
Chair Virgil, thanks
do you
for
have a-
pointing that out.
I guess I have a question, 1 second. So, but Virgil, these are just some of the things. You could change the, if we pass this for 5 years, you could come to the board and say, I'd like to do this one instead of the ones that are on the list. It's just, these are,
No,
They have to be identified.
they have to be identified.
these are the only projects that this money that's collected
But
can go
couldn't
for.
we re-identify them next
You'd
year?
have to have another public hearing.
Another public hearing?
A
Okay.
new list.
So then it would be simple enough.
But the highway department has looked at, and these are the most pressing needs.
No, no,
So I can't see anything coming up in the next 5 years that would be more pressing than any of
I'm
these.
just saying, but if, then you just have another public hearing and you put it.
Mr. Chair, Virgil?
Yeah.
So these could be, the order could be shifted a bit.
Correct.
Yeah, it's-
This is a list of the projects. It's not like we're doing this one first and this one second.
Yeah, no, it
This
says
is a
on the-
list of identified
It
projects.
says that on the green
Yep,
sheet there. This project
Just
list
to
is
clarify that
subject
for
to
people.
change.
Yeah.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Potter.
Mr. Hawkins, could you tell us approximately what that item 17, CASA 19 at 94 lanes would be dollar-wise?
I'm sorry, which one again?
The one you want to add to the resolution?
Yeah, this was presented at the public hearing list, and it's a 3 million estimate.
3.
3, okay.
Okay, so you add 3, so now we're up at 81 million.
Or are we still at 78?
No.
No, this was the list that was presented at the public hearing, and it totals 86,700,000.
Okay.
Again, I'm in total agreement that we need to do something. The state isn't coming forward, and we've got some roads out there that are not the safest, and they need to be updated. Roads that are heavily traveled with no shoulders on them and stuff. I just would prefer for you guys to do it as a 5-year, and
I think-
I would ask the
We need to-
maker to do that.
Okay, well, we need to fill in the blanks. I'm just saying, maybe we could just do this as we have the resolution on the thing. Lee, can we have like this as an amendment to this, to fill in the blanks? One second, Mike.
We could update the language as, this was just presented as a
But I'm
draft
just saying,
resolution.
we could do this as a vote and then vote on the final resolution.
I suppose.
Because otherwise, we could just fill things in, and then it might not be what everybody
Well,
wants.
everybody's in agreement with October 1st of 2017. for
That we
the action
start.
date. Yep.
Okay, October of 2017, I don't see a disagreement, okay. Okay, and then the end, go ahead, Commissioner Houston.
Mr. Chair, and for the half percent,
Everybody's in agreement with the 0.5%.
everyone's in agreement with
If you're
that.
going to do it, 0.5%,
Yep.
okay?
Okay.
And then the end date,
December 31st of 2023, or 22. That'd be 5 years and 1 quarter.
December 31st.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion on the floor, and that does not have that stipulation
Well,
in it.
there was nothing in there, Mike, the motion doesn't have it, we have to fill in the blanks, so. So Mike, that's what I'm saying, we have to agree
Make a
on.
new motion that states for the dates of October 1st to December 31st, but he has to rescind his other motion. I will make a new motion if he wants to rescind his other one.
He's still got his on the floor.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to rescind this motion because I think it's too important to try to be short-sighted in 5 years because I don't anticipate the legislature actually doing anything because they've had enough time to do something, and I don't foresee the will to fix this, because they haven't paid a political price for it by inaction over the past, 4 years. And until they feel a political backlash to it, they're not going to do anything.
Okay, so we need to, okay, Mike, when you made your motion, though, you didn't read in any of the empty blanks. So we have to come to a consensus on what we're putting into the blanks before we can vote on your motion. That's what I think. So I'm thinking maybe we do it as an amendment to the motion to put in. Okay, so I will entertain a motion from Mike, if you want to try yours first, or whoever, Brian.
Mr. Chair,
Brian.
Brian's going to give
Fill
us
us in on the legal way to do
Hey,
it.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I realize there are some blanks to be filled in. As I recollect Commissioner Potter's motion, he said a half a cent sales tax, so that filled in those
That would
blanks.
fill in that blank, yeah.
The way the statute reads is that you either set an end date or it remains in effect until all of those projects named are completed. So it could be interpreted that his motion was to have this go into effect indefinitely until those projects are
I
completed.
think that was
Mr.
your
Chair,
intent.
that was my intent.
Okay, so does somebody want to amend the motion?
Commissioner Potter, would you take a friendly amendment? Would you go 6 years even if I push it to give you a little bit more time to meet somewhere out there? Can we get, I mean, I think the consensus is we want an end date on it. I mean, if we buy you a little bit more time to get on that list, are you open, or you want to stick with finishing the whole list?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Hughes.
I'm sorry, well,
Or do you want to answer that first?
did you want to answer before I?
You can
Okay,
talk.
chime in. Mr. Chair, I was in favor of, like, say, doing this for 5 years until, Commissioner Potter pointed out that this can be repealed at any time going forward. So say we're off the board, money stream is coming, it's changed, it's different. We don't have these specific projects. However, I believe that we will always have projects that we are not getting adequate funding for. So when he pointed that out, then I changed my
Okay.
thoughts to be in agreement with that, because we do have, this does talk about all these projects, and these projects may be 15 years, some of these projects might be done before that, so they're estimating it's going to be 15 to 20 years, is that correct? So if they got done before that, you'd have to come before the board to get new projects identified anyway, so.
Okay, and for me, I had some conditions that I would need to be implemented for me to support it. The 5-year was one of them, but I don't think it's, just to be honest up front with the rest of the board, I don't think my other conditions are going to get met, so I'm probably going to be a no vote on this, so I don't know where you want. But the 5-year, if we're going to do this, I would want it to be to 5 years, and there's nothing saying that the new board couldn't affirmatively say, hey, it's working good, we still have these projects, and go on. It's a lot easier to let a tax keep going than to make a motion to stop the tax, so I would rather.
Mr. Chair, Brian, does this muddy the waters too much, though? If we set a cap of 5 years, we've got these identified projects for 15 to 20, how does that play into all this?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hughes, I guess the statute really doesn't talk about setting a term, but I don't know why you wouldn't be able to. I mean, it's...
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Potter.
again, I'll reiterate that at any time, the county board can rescind this.
We got that.
And you have that option, so they're putting a time limit that really doesn't, you still have the option to rescind it, and a future board can come on and say, okay, we don't like this, it's just no good, I don't know, a crazy idea, not going to do it. They can rescind it at any time. So that option is still out there. And whether the attitude is, well, maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know what a future board's going to do. They may view this different than we do, but the thing is that to get these programs in and going and get them sequenced in, it takes a long time. I-94, just to get the first phase done, was quite a few years. these things take time to get going. It's not like you can start today a project and tomorrow you're digging dirt. It takes a while by the time you have all your EAWs, all these things done. I mean, these things take a lot of time, and we have some engineers in here that can tell you they don't come overnight. They take time to get going. So I feel comfortable that there is always the option for the county board to rescind this if they decide they do no longer want to do this.
And that said, there's always the thing that the county board, 3 years into this, could extend this date another 5 years.
I was going to say, we might in 3 years say, hey, this isn't working the way we thought it was, so we could rescind it as a county board too. So it doesn't have to be 5 years.
Here's the difference by putting an expiration date on it of 5 years versus not. Let's say there's, it will go away unless you have 3 votes in the affirmative, okay? And if you didn't want it to go away, you extend it out. It's as simple as that. It's an easier thing to say, if that motion failed, to extend it, then it would go away. Whereas the other way, you have to affirmatively say, we want it to continue and we need 3 votes to do that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to ask Mr. Asselson if such talk that you say is actually in the state statute about the 3 years, it just goes away if you vote for it, or do you hold another public hearing, or how do you do this? Because the statute, the way I read it, was this, you adopt it, and you don't have to have an end date, you can do it, but the board does have the ability at any time to rescind this if they want to.
Yep.
And Commissioner Burrell is taking his take on what he thinks he'd like the law or statute to say.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Potter, the actual language in the statute just says, except for taxes which are the operating costs for a transit project, the taxes must terminate when revenues raised are sufficient to finance the project. And that's been read to include projects, plural. Obviously, most counties out there have, when they've implemented the tax, have had a list of projects. So it doesn't really...
Exactly.
It doesn't really talk about a term, but, I guess without knowing what other counties have done, I'm assuming that other counties may have set a term on their taxes.
Mr. Chair.
Coordinator Kelly, do you remember if Carver County, or does anyone know what Carver County did when they adopted?
Do not recall.
1 second, Mike.
Good luck.
You don't know? Okay, Mike.
I do.
Okay.
0.5%, $20 wheelage tax, excise fee, no expiration. Because I had that discussion with the Lyndon Robejunt, their agent, their engineer out in Washington, D.C. last week. I asked them if they had all these things. No. Keep in mind, Mr. Chair, that when the Northeast Wright County study gets done, any projects that are identified in that aren't identified here will require another public hearing to add those to the list. And keep in mind also that we have a Highway 25 coalition with the potential of a river crossing up there, which would be quite a large undertaking for this county, and you start factoring that in, that's just getting off the ground now. Things like this are coming up that we need to address, and we need to make sure we're on top of it so we're not chasing our tail and trying to count on the legislature to do something or counting on the feds to do something.
Mr. Chair, I just look at having a sunset on it empowers the public. This is the public's dollar on it, and I really feel like, future boards should have to have it come in front of them and have to answer these emails, answer these phone calls, and justify whether we do or don't need that money. And to me, it's a big deciding factor for me is having that sunset and putting other people's feet to the fire on it.
So if we're going to do that, the way to do it would be to make an amendment to the motion.
Either that or, Mr. Chair, Coordinator Kelly, wouldn't we have to vote on the motion on the table?
No, we can amend the motion.
You can.
Okay, you can amend the motion.
But the motion maker has to accept.
No. You can make an amendment without the motion maker.
You just have 2 separate votes.
Yes, have to have 3 votes, yeah.
Yep.
Am I right?
I'll agree with that.
I'll make my amendment to have a end date of the December 31st of 2022. Is that right? That's 5 years, correct? In 1 quarter.
Okay, I'll second it, but then for conversation, so if this passes, then how does that work, Brian?
Then you come back to the original motion with that.
With that amendment?
Yes.
So then that amendment would automatically go into effect with the motion maker?
Correct.
Okay, discussion further on this? Mike, I don't know if you need to reiterate. I think I know where you're coming from.
Time for talk is over, it's time for action.
Yeah.
That's been one of my frustrations, is everybody talks about government moving slow, they need to take action. Things aren't going to heal themselves.
Okay.
No, and I agree. I'd just like to have metrics in place. Make it
And
easier.
I said I did have several things. I said I probably won't be able to vote for it anyway, but that was one of the ones that I had, so.
Now, do we
Okay.
have to do, for the amendment, we don't need, it's a resolution vote, but we need to vote to approve the amendment first.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I'm going to call for a vote here in a second. So, seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the amendment to set the ending date until December 31st, 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, and Mike, you voted, didn't vote. Okay, so the amendment prevails, 3-1 and 1 abstention. Okay, so now the motion on the floor is for the resolution as, and with all the blanks are filled in right now, so,
Mr. Chair?
yes, go ahead.
Just for point of clarification, the project that Virgil mentioned, hopefully the board is in agreement with adding that to
Including
this
that.
I
resolution.
don't think there was any objection, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm
And-
confused. So
No, so now,
so
that-
now it's Derek's motion, right?
no, that passed already.
No, but, okay,
So now it's
Now-
back to the resolution that,
with the end date.
with the end date,
Yeah.
that's the only difference. And again, I said my other thing that I'm just not prepared to put all 6 million of this toward.
It won't be,
Projects.
it will not be 6 million. I'll guarantee you that. If you look at the Department of Revenue's sales tax numbers, if you end up being, I think the most you're gonna see is about 4.5.
That was about 5.6, no? Not 5.6?
No. Nope.
So, okay.
No, it'll be closer to 4.5, because if you look at the Minnesota Department of Revenue numbers, it's sales tax complete for the county, so that includes auto sales and all that sort of
Okay.
stuff. So you gotta back those numbers out. And just looking at what I've seen there, I think about 4.5 is probably the most you can expect. So it's not as much as you think it is, Charlie.
Okay. All right, further discussion? Derek, I think you were going to do a resolution, you start down there.
So we voting on the, we're
Actual
two separate
resolution.
resolutions? Am I voting on mine? Or am I doing-
That's already done, the date is already put in.
Okay.
Now we're voting on the
So-
resolution that Mr. Potter made with your amendment.
Amendment, okay, then aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
The resolution prevails 4-1.
So this mean that since the commissioner for the first one on this list said no, does that mean that doesn't happen?
Only if Waverly takes the ditch.
Okay, I'll agree to that. I'll make a motion.
Okay. All right, we're moving on.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve.
Items for consideration. Schedule an audit exit meeting. And Bob, you're,
Yeah. Commissioners, the Office of the State Auditor has completed the audit of 2016. We've responded back to their findings. What we're setting up is an audit exit meeting. It's required that they have a meeting with management. So this Thursday, Lee, I think we have an exit meeting with them that includes Lee, myself, Lindsay, and I think we reached out to Charlie.
yeah.
I think if we have at least a commissioner on there, we really wouldn't have to have an audit exit meeting, another one after this. But if you would like to have a meeting with the Office of the State Auditor to talk about the 2016 audit, we could schedule one June or July.
And I talked with Auditor Hevela, and I said I'd kind of, rather than just making the call myself, I'd like to leave it up to you guys if
What
you
time on
wanted.
Thursday?
Did we shoot for either 11 or 1?
Find it here quick.
Lindsay told me that she's working with Lee on it, so.
Yeah, I don't have that date down with me, but yes, it was Thursday. The challenge, I would argue, is if we're going to do the full board, we're not going to meet the 3-day posting.
Right.
We're not
But,
going
and board, I don't think it requires a full board. I think a commissioner who wants to be on it could be on it. The requirement is that it's with the management staff. Lee and I are considered a good part of the management, so.
Is there anybody else that, I mean, if there's one other person
there's
that
one
wants to
other
go,
person
I
wants
mean,
to.
two, then there's no legal issues and.
No,
Charlie,
I'm
can
fine
you
with,
make it?
I'm
I
fine with
can make it right now, so.
the chair or if one more wants.
And then, and we'll get the summary, and we'll get the entire audit, too.
Oh, right, board, I apologize.
Right.
You will get the complete audit with the
Thursday I
findings
can't,
and everything.
so Thursday I'm out, so.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And so what time Thursday, Lee?
He doesn't know.
I don't have a date.
So you'll have to let us know.
Sorry.
Okay.
But it looks like 3 commissioners could make it on Thursday anyway, so. And I'll see how it goes, and if you could let me know the time, maybe I can show up and just keep Charlie in line. Yep.
Well, if we shoot for 11 o'clock, we can always reconvene to 1 o'clock,
Be
right?
hard.
So let's shoot for 11 o'clock on
11
Thursday.
He's so ambitious.
There's your headline.
Okay, and we should have a motion to that effect.
Oh, no,
You don't think we need a motion?
no, why do you need a motion? There is no,
Since there will not be a quorum
Will that be-
present.
Okay.
yeah, it's just letting us know that there is you were giving, if we were going to all meet as an exit interview, then we would need a motion.
Okay. So 11 o'clock Thursday down here in your room?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
And you'll let us know if that changes?
And meeting with WCAT.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was contacted by Mr. Auger of the City of Buffalo, and following up to earlier in the year, they had approached the board regarding the agreement with WCAT. They would like to have a meeting with the full board. I had suggested, is there an upcoming meeting where WCAT was meeting anyway that we could piggyback onto rather than trying to coordinate everybody's schedules?
Sure.
So their next meeting is June 20th at 2 p.m. out at the Trailblazer facility here in Buffalo. So I would propose that as the date and time if that would work for the membership of the board.
The chair will move that we set the meeting with WCAT on the 20th at 2 p.m.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Potter for 2 o'clock with WCAT. And that will be at the Buffalo City offices?
No.
Buffalo
The
Trailblazers.
Oh, the Trailblazer.
Yeah, just past Walmart.
Okay. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I had heard, I was just reading something about, and one of the members said that they were getting closer to working with Trailblazer Board. Do you know anything, Kath?
Don't know, I'm not part of the.
Okay. I just read that in the paper recently, so I was just wondering if anybody knew
They're getting along a little better. They're getting along a little better.
Well, I just read something about that they were getting close. I think it was somebody from Delno that said it. I don't remember who's all in the board.
Okay.
It was just it was in the paper, because it kind of surprised me, because I had heard that things McLeod said no, and then I heard that they were getting better, so.
Okay.
We'll
So
find out.
6:20 at 2 o'clock. We have the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Scheduled committee of the whole regarding the courts facility project.
Mr. Chair, our next executive committee will be on the 19th, and I thought it would be good to have a full board meeting just for an update and some discussion on how design is proceeding and the project is proceeding along. So Knowing the executive committee will get an update on the 19th, I would propose sometime following that, we do a full board meeting as a committee of the whole to discuss the project and get an update.
Oh, so not on the 19th?
Not on.
Correct.
Okay.
I would prefer to do it a different day than the
Well,
19th.
how about on the 20th after a board meeting?
Before the WCAT?
Is that
Yeah,
gonna
the
give us enough
WCAT's not
time?
till 2 o'clock, so.
We could
It'd
set
be
it for
fine.
10:30 or
Yeah.
That work?
Sounds good.
Okay.
June 20th
10:30.
at 10:30.
Let me check here. I know they're on site that day, and I believe they may be doing some court meetings that day as well, so I'm sure we have enough folks
Okay.
here.
So we'll have a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Delighten, set the date of June 20th at 10:30 for a committee of the whole regarding the court's facility. Second,
second.
by Commissioner Hewsome. Further discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries. And this one here, and I didn't bring anything with me. Lee, do I have a map? Or do I have to describe it?
We
Use
had
your
it-
hand.
we had it in the-
It starts here and works over to here.
Okay. This came before the
We have
board. Oh, you do have it, good. Okay. It came before the board, what, last April?
in the packet.
And okay, oh, it is in the
Yeah,
packet.
it's in the
Okay.
packet right here.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that. We can just go to this. But anyway, what they found out is the things that they wanted to put into the TIF district, they couldn't physically fit them all in. So they're looking to just amend this, and it's early on, and Brian, maybe you can help us a little bit on this too, but it's early on in the process. The school district already has approved of it, but they're just going to put a second area onto to the TIF. So the proposed annex type location would be down to the east of, if this is Highway 12 on the map here, it would be to the east of Highway 12, on Highway 12. Bob, you can help us maybe.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to add one point of clarification. The city of Howard Lake sent us the TIF request. We're still in that planning stage, so we haven't even begun to certify this TIF. So this is a perfect time to amend their request. So we have the one parcel right off of 12, then we have a non-contiguous parcel that they want to add in for the garage. So,
Okay.
is there any problems with doing that?
I think actually Bob and I, Brian said we could just sign off, but I wanted to bring it to the board's attention so that you kind of were informed and knew what was going on, so.
I think St. Michael did that here too, last year or something.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the modification of TIF District 1-19 for the city of Howard Lake.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Delighten. All in discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimous. Thank you all for doing that. Thank you. All right, advisory committee, advisory board updates, is whoever wants to start off on that.
Mr. Chair, I'll start it off.
Okay, Commissioner Potter.
As most of you are aware of, I was here last week. Really? Even the guy on the other end here, you might remember I wasn't here. I was in Washington DC as part of the Transportation Alliance and AMC, which I'm a chair of Transportation Infrastructure Policy for all 87 counties, plus I-94 Coalition, 55 Coalition, 25 Coalition. So I spent the whole week out there instead of just a couple days to try to get a little bit better feel of what's going on out there. Met with a lot of legislators, congressmen, and senators, and we have a lot of support for something coming in, infrastructure bill, which last week was supposed to be infrastructure week at the Congress, but it got bogged down by the Comey thing. There is support in the both chambers to do something. The bipartisanship, what they're looking for is because they're fearing with the election of President Trump, with the infrastructure emphasis, that if they don't do something 2018, there will be issues for them. We haven't seen it at the state level, but I think the federal level, they're thinking it because it's not just Minnesota, it's not just Wright County, it's nationwide we have a problem. There's been a lot of things floated out there, what they do. Some was public-private partnerships. Another one was raising the federal gas tax by a nickel to help save that because the Federal Highway Trust Fund is going insolvent because it has numerous for lack of a better word, some blood-sucking programs off the gas tax, the federal end, which the state does not have that. The state is constitutionally dedicated to roads and bridges. The federal is not. So it's a little more problematic. The issue that we have now with the federal is Elaine Cho, the Secretary of Transportation, has been stymied by Congress and not fulfilling all her positions. I mean, this is the longest that any transportation secretary has gone without having all positions filled. And until the positions are filled, you really can't get going. The sad part is it's just more of an obstructionist move. It just has nothing to do with their, hopefully with some meetings I had with different congressmen and senators, that they're going to knock it off and let her fill her positions so we can move forward with this.
Well, so it has nothing to do with her not doing it, it's...
Congress has to approve her staff.
Oh,
And they're
so
not
it's Congress screwing it up.
And they're just not, they're slow to appoint everything, which makes it problematic for everything. Because even if we have a project going in there, it's got to get through that process, and without the people there, you don't start
Is
anything.
it the Congress, Mike, or just the Senate? The Senate confirmation?
Both.
Oh, is it both? Okay.
Because they're using obstructionist things in there, you know, they're just not doing it. They're,
Are they approved by a simple majority?
I don't believe so, but I could be wrong on that, because if it was simple majority, I believe it would have been done already.
Yeah, that's why I was just kind of curious.
But the thing boils down to is it's troubling that they're not moving faster on this to do something, because as they do nothing, it just gets worse. The amount of the legislators, congressmen that were out there that we had at the breakfast and question answer session were all positive on anything. Myself and Vice Chair Vance Sternberg from Blue Earth County, we came there letting them know that it is not Highway 14 against 94. It is we as Minnesotans all together in this. It's not, because that's what they tend to do. When I was didn't get a chance to point this out good enough to Representative Walz, who is running for governor, that he failed to sign on and support I-94. And I need to send him a letter and remind him that, you know, from Maple Grove to St. Cloud is a lot of people, and they all vote. And that maybe you should take it, it's not 14 against 94, and I think some of those people have that, I'm only going to do it for my district, and that's it, where that's the wrong attitude to take, because we're all in this together. The legislature likes to do that, and when we go down there unified as all of us, it doesn't give them an out. They have to do something. Going forward, this is probably the most optimistic I felt that the feds are going to do something, because they all seem to be in agreement. Even Senator Franken, in the 4 years going out there, he actually talked transportation in a positive note. Where a couple of them, I was disappointed where he didn't mention transportation. He was busy more so going after the other side instead of just, how do we fix this? Because roads are not a Republican or Democrat thing, they're a people thing. And so I was impressed with that, and again, Senator Klobuchar gets it. There's not going to be our issue there, and I believe that Senator Franken has come around on this. We just got to get the rest of them going. We also really happy that Representative Jason Lewis, even though he's not in this district, he won by a very slight margin, and the DNC spent a lot of money trying to keep him out of there. He impressed the leadership enough where they put a freshman on the transportation committee. That's rare. And Mr. Lewis, talking with him and listening to him, facts, figures, knowledge, he's going to be an asset, and it's great for the state of Minnesota. We have Rick Nolan on there now, but when he retires, we will still have somebody on there. Because if we don't have somebody on that committee, chances of us getting any money is very slim. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. I was kind of wondering how much does he know about transportation, but he is rock solid on that. And no, I did not get to meet President Trump. He was in Ohio that week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know,
I understand for just a small sum, you can have your picture taken with them.
well, others members went to the Trump International and went in there and took their picture with that, but It wasn't high on my list of things I had to do while I was out there.
Higher priorities?
Yeah, but it was a interesting, like I say, interesting trip, and there's not a lack of things to do out there, that's for sure. But the transportation part, I've got a more positive feeling that something's going to happen. I mean, the state level, they made kind of a baby step forward. It's better than what they've done in the past, but it still doesn't address the issue, but and I mentioned with Tama Tice yesterday, I hope this is the first step, not the final step. Because if it's a final step, we got a problem, because we really didn't solve the problem. But otherwise, this DC trip went well, and it's one of those things that you got to be at the table, otherwise you're on the menu out there, and that's repeated over and over again. And they got to see you, you got to be out there, you got to be vocal. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
I thought if you were on the table, you probably were on the menu. I know the saying. Commissioner Houston.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was at the Public Works Labor Management meeting on Thursday, and they've, with the conditions, they've really been able to get out there and get a lot done. They're 99% complete on their seal coating. I think they've done 40 miles. They put down 11,000 ton of hot mixes. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, Coordinator Kelly. They have an IT person out there on Thursday afternoons working with the people for training, and that's been going really well. They will be at the the county fair this year. They weren't there last year because of their construction project, so people will be really happy to have them back again. And just sort of a side comment, the open house then on Friday with the parks and surveyors and 4-H and the highway building and the sheriff's building, it was really well attended. I stopped at the parks first, or the parks had their little climbing wall. They really, wanted me to do that, but I declined. I was wearing sandals, so I had a good excuse.
So Commissioner Houston, if we see pictures of you on the rock wall, it was fake news?
Exactly, it was, because that's what I said. Sure, Houston not in her finest moment, but.
I think there was like 185 kids or something.
There was, I think,
quite a few.
I think 90 kids had climbed the wall by 10:15 or something. They
I
opened
think
at
Mark
9.
said there was a total like 180.
Yeah, it was,
a lot.
it was just great, and, the surveyors had their truck out, so you could see how they pack all their equipment, and, of course, the highway and the sheriffs, and they were doing jail tours, and I had to get to a noon meeting in Monticello, so I couldn't spend quite as much time as I wanted to, but they, people are just real happy to be able to go through and see what everything is like inside and how it all came together, so that was good. And then I was at the Workforce Center, Central Minnesota Jobs and Training meeting on Friday. They're facing some pretty substantial cuts at the state and the federal level, so trying to figure out how to continue to be efficient and deliver services. We have a lot of businesses in Wright County that are part of their on-the-job training program, and just thank you to all of the businesses that step forward and offer that to people. There's so many dislocated workers and just people that are, forced all of a sudden, they are dislocated and they need something else to do, so that's encouraging. And did anybody want to talk about the
AMC, why don't you bring it up?
Well,
whatever.
I mean, I've been talking long enough, so.
You guys fill me in, but the AMC District 5 met up in Stearns County yesterday, and 4 of the commissioners were here. One had motor problems.
Car wash problems.
Okay, but anyway.
Power
problems.
Issues.
But, no, they had a lot of things. There was actually presentation by the Stearns County Attorney about sex trafficking and how prevalent it is in our whole area, and probably everywhere, she said. We got a big thing on the legislative update on all with the state, where things are going there. And Mike, go ahead, you probably have more detail than I do, but.
On which front?
I don't know anything. If anybody else wanted to comment on it. But anyway, it was a good meeting.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Dwayne Merrick from Stearns County, who has been on he's been the regional chair for 8 years, I think.
I think it's 5 years.
Anyway, he had termed out, so
Yeah, I
so
thought
we
it was
have a
6.
new
It could be 6.
6.
Yeah, 6 because it's
a new
17.
chair took over. Will take over at our next meeting. So anyway, that's all I had.
Commissioner Felix Schmeezing from
Sherburne is going to be.
And I want the record to reflect that Commissioner Burrell had the famous Stearns County tater tot hot dish, and he enjoyed every bit of it.
It was. They didn't have ketchup there, but it was.
Well, I thought it was, they presented.
What's your other headline? Tater tot hot dish.
I think it was interesting
Tell
how.
that story later.
Well, which serving did he enjoy, second, third, or fourth?
I told
I think
people to
all
get
of
in
them.
line.
I think he
I
liked
said,
all
if
of
the
them.
farm boy goes back for a second helping, you're all done.
There's still food left over.
And
I just think it's good that they they punched in there that, and yeah, we got a lot of good CPA, county program aid money, but yet we lost it all back in HHS through, we'll give you 15% more here, but we'll take it back on the bottom line here later. So really, it ends up being a neutral.
And Mr. Chair, when they were doing, the county updates from all the member counties, I wrote down 6 stigma because, had you ever heard of that before? I intended to ask, but that's in conjunction with the lean training. It's kind of, and I should have written a better note about it.
Yeah, Six Sigma is just another
Yeah,
method
but-
of looking at ways of
So,
doing it.
Right,
well,
so
it
it's
makes
not-
it
it's-
more consistent, so everything's the same. It's kind of similar to lean, but it was a
Right.
little bit different. So.
Exactly, because lean is, you look at the process, you take it
Efficiency.
apart and put it back together again. But this seems like it had another component of it.
I believe it's 6 steps. But anyway, yeah, it's really used a lot in industrial nations or industrial business,
yeah.
commercial business. I
So
know.
something to keep on our radar. I mean, we've been moving forward with lean training, and certainly is implementing that in our county has been a great thing, so.
And Commissioner Houston, I think that the Administrator Hool would more than be happy to sit down and talk with you
I bet he
for
would.
hours on end about this.
It's into it.
Oh,
Okay.
that's the inside joke, as I told, Administrator of Crow Wing County, Tim Hool, very wise, very smart, but he likes to expand the conversation as far as it can go.
He's good to talk to.
We all got good scare tactics too on data practices too.
Yeah. So it's good that we're implementing our email retention policy. That was one thing that came out of it, so. And other than that, for me, soil and water last night, it was good to hear the Ditch 10 project. They are progressing with it. We're going to be having some meetings with the public and stuff coming out and looking at different ideas on how to improve that.
Do they have any idea when their timeframe?
They didn't really, just said it would be soon, so I'm thinking within the next month or so here. But the other thing that, talking with Luke there, they really are thinking outside the box. They're actually looking at Grass Lake as a possible solution, because I brought that up time and time again, and they actually are looking at it. So it'll be encouraging to see where that goes, because I hope that can be a pilot that really will take off in our whole area here, not just in Wright County even, because we do need to improve our water quality. I was saying last night at the meeting, the Clean Water Act hasn't done it for us. The Wetland Conservation Act hasn't done it for us. The buffer law is not going to do it for us. We need to start thinking outside the box.
Well, the buffer law will help. When you go down a ditch, county ditch, and you have blowouts, direct dirt going into the ditch,
Yeah.
filling it up, obviously, that's not a good thing.
And Mark, the thing is that nobody's going to argue that buffers are a good thing, but to have the way this law got written, it was by Pheasants Forever, and it was not with the emphasis on water quality, because we have this, it was for habitat, because there's many places where you don't need, you know, you don't need 10 feet of buffer when the water doesn't flow toward a ditch, but it has to average 30. So then down here, we're going to have 60 feet if you don't do it up here. So it was just the intent of the motivation behind it was not well, and I don't think it serves water quality like we needed it to. So that's all I had.
Thursday night, last week I was over in Otsego regarding Highway 38, County Road 38, the new county road, about what's going to be happening next year from Highway 101 to where they just recently redid 70th Street, new county road 38.
Up to Odine.
Odine, I couldn't remember the street. Thank you. On how that'll all get widened out and a road that's very heavily traveled with a lot of truck traffic, especially with what we got over there in Otsego and then heading over to I-94. A lot of concern, a lot of good information. There's, of course, a lot of residents aren't real happy about making a racetrack in their backyards. But that I hear it every time we're talking about new roads and improving roads, that it's going to be people driving way too fast. I know one of the things they did concern about J-brakes on semis, but I believe the city is going to look at that to ordinance that sort of stuff out.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Glyden, the city has the right to implement no Jake brake, no truck braking in their jurisdiction.
Yeah, and that's more city-related than the county. But yeah, it's going to be nice when it's all done. They're looking at another roundabout, actually at Odine and 38. So about a mile away from our existing. Again, I'm not a real huge fan of well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't been a real huge fan of roundabouts, but I'm very impressed with the one on County Road 35 over by the Buffalo High School. I've never ever seen a huge backup, which I was concerned about.
Oh, I know, it used to
with
be
the high
just
school.
forever.
Yeah, it was, and it's constantly moving.
Yep.
It's very impressive on the way
It is.
it's working there.
I think they work good when you're in a slower speed limit. I think they're dangerous in a 55 mile an hour zone or higher. But now that one, it does have a 55, but it's coming into where the 55
slow
ends.
down.
Well, it ends right there anyway. So that one's one that I probably could have supported, you know, if somebody would have brought me more detail on it. But if it's 55 through, it's, you know, I said it's dangerous. I've seen it down on Highway 7 where there's people been killed a lot.
That's a different situation
Different
there.
7 is
But-
not well done.
But, you know, I mean, instead of having a traffic light, when you got to have some sort of control, I really think that the roundabouts are much safer than a traffic light in certain situations. So, anyway, that was good there.
Okay.
There was something else, but I can't
Last
remember.
Wednesday, I had PIO training for our nuclear drill. That was really quite fun. I encourage anyone who get the opportunity to do that to go down to the Homeland Security Emergency Management Center. It's a pretty neat learning opportunity. It's amazing to the level of realism that they'll prepare, you know, us for emergency situations. So it was a great opportunity. Just want to share that. That's all I have.
And, Mr. Chair, just a little public service. If anyone has time to come out to the Buffalo Day celebration, there's things going on all week. It's well advertised in the Wright County Journal-Press, and I'll be helping with the fishing clinic for kids. We have about 1,000 kids that come to the event on Saturday morning, so that's always a lot of fun. We've
How
got
long does it go?
9:30 to 1:30.
I mean, the
It
day
goes through Sunday.
Through Sunday,
Yep,
okay.
Yep, so a lot of events going on all week. So
So there was good information from the Wright County Journal-Press?
There really was,
But there
yeah.
was nothing from that other newspaper?
I don't know. You might have something in there.
Yeah, that's right, he's ignoring us.
That's it, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
And we are going to, we are going to adjourn at 10:25.
Chair, if I could.
Oh, yes, Lee, go ahead.
I've been having correspondence with staff regarding the committee of the whole we scheduled on the 20th. It's not looking like that's going to work, given the meetings we have scheduled already that day regarding the facility. If we could revisit that possibly before you adjourn the meeting.
Sure, June 20th.
With the courts?
Correct.
And the
yes.
10:31 they said is not looking good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'd have the architect and Alan and everybody would be split among 2 or 3 different spots. So,
Okay, so what's a better
if we
alternative?
could perhaps look at either the following week or later that same week, I believe would work. Or
Wednesday or Thursday?
What do we got on the 22nd?
Yeah, 22nd.
That's the
we have-
option.
We have nuclear
Yeah, but
training.
that's till noon, but we could do 1 o'clock on the 22nd, because we have to be over here anyways, Christine, but I don't know about other members.
The 22nd, did they say the 22nd was available?
we've been kind of shooting back and forth throughout the meeting here. I think it could work. Again, just kind of a high-level overview of where the project's at, and I don't know without talking with the architect if they'd be available on the 22nd, but if nothing else, we could make sure staff could present something.
But you said the 27th was another option?
That's getting pretty full for me already.
Yeah,
27th.
it's a full day. I know
I
Alan will
already
be out
have-
that day, but I
yeah.
will be here.
Do they have anything on the 21st perhaps?
Or are you, Charlie?
Yeah.
Mike, are you
21st
two
is
available at 22nd?
Either one.
The 21st in the morning,
But you guys said you were going to be here anyway
Yeah.
on the 22nd, so that would probably be a
So
good day.
we could, yeah, meet at
Looks like the
12:30.
22nd works.
Okay,
Okay.
At 12:30 or
I believe that could work.
okay.
is that,
So ours is 9 to noon, so is 12:30 gonna give us
Yeah.
enough time?
That should be.
I think so. I mean, because I've got something later, so 12:30 would be better for me then.
Sounds good, 12:30 will work?
Okay, Mr. Chair?
So 12:30 on the 22nd?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I'd like to amend a previous vote we did, to amend that date to, from June 20th to June 22nd at 12:30.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that carries. And I see, Mary, you know what, I forgot to mention the meeting that, well, just for Chris and I with Soil and Water. I'll have to talk to you later about it, with kind of a Ways and Means Committee. Okay, I'll have to find it on my calendar. So we are adjourned at, looks like about 10:28.